when you see crime rates, when you see that this young man, Bishop Evans, 22 years old, died trying to save 2 drug smugglers crossing illegally.
Yes.
That is crazy to me. So what do you think Congress can do? What do you think when we went back to the House and you get in Congress, what do you think we can do to hold the Biden administration accountable for this?
I just drove past the DOJ building. It's a fantastic building, and written on the side of it says, "Where law ends, tyranny begins."
It's true.
I just saw that.
Lawlessness. We're tired of the lawlessness. And that goes for both sides. Both racial groups. Both ethnic groups, because there's only one race.
Should not be raising taxes.
Both ethnic groups. Europeans and Africans.
Have border security and follow the law and enforce the law at our border. Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
Regaining our energy independence. Okay, let's make sure that we continue to support Israel. Let's make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. These are all things that we as Republicans can all agree on. And if we have some kind of contract with America that's saying that says we're going to do these things, and guess what? We can then regain trust back in the American people.
I think you're so
You
right.
cannot regain trust with the American people until you return everything that they have stolen.
Other words I put in front of that, but I'm just going to say common sense versus crazy. Because what they're doing is crazy. I mean, it is common sense that parents should have a say in their kids' classroom. It's a common sense that we should have.
Of course, that's common
We have
sense.
laws. We shouldn't let drugs be pouring across our border when we see the highest death rate right now between 18 and 45-year-olds is opioids.
Fentanyl overdoses,
And
yes.
so I'm so thankful for you. I do want to talk about energy because Texas is an energy producer. I'll tell you one thing John Kennedy said on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and I love it.
Okay.
He's like, all the
I love Senator John Kennedy.
resources are in Texas.
He's amazing.
Oklahoma,
I'm happy that he says what needs to be said, and he definitely uses common sense. Unlike the bitches in Georgia.
I used that line. I used it in Alaska last week, but I think that's so true. And your district is going to be such a huge resource for energy. Tell me why it is so important from so many levels. Being a veteran, the inflation, all the things that we're seeing from a security level, that we have energy independence.
So Houston there's a saying that Houston is known as the energy capital of the world, and there's a stretch in Houston that's known as the energy corridor.
Okay.
The entire energy corridor has now been drawn into my district.
Okay.
So that makes me the energy congressman of the world.
You are the energy congressman. You are very high energy.
Right.
For you. You are the energy congressman. And then there is
T-shirts. You're giving me a lot of T-shirts.
I love it.
Don't worry. And so basically, I am very fortunate to be in a district to where all 800,000 people that live in my district are in some way tangentially related to the oil and gas industry. If you're an engineer, if you're in the medical industry, if you are an attorney, everything circles around that industry. And making sure that we tell the truth about our industry was really important. We are the reason why we have reduced our carbon over the course of the past decade. Every single year is because of natural gas. We're sitting on the Permian Basin right now with the Marcellus Shale.
Like I said, if y'all had been as truthful as y'all are being and as open as y'all are being now in 2016 about the Keystone Pipeline access line, we wouldn't be going through this. People understand logic and reasoning if you tell them the truth and you're open about it. All the secrecy behind our aboriginal natural resources is the problem. That's key one.
Biden did it day one. People don't understand this. Keystone XL and then stopping the leases and drilling on federal lands. He did it day one. And then it stopped investment. And people in that industry said, we're not going to expand. And so instead we bought 500,000 barrels of oil from Russia every day.
Yeah.
So
Do you hear this?
Is this crazy?
This is
what I'm saying.
This is
It's crazy versus common
It's
sense.
insane.
So how many jobs do you think in your, like 80% of the jobs?
Just in the energy corridor alone, there's about 75 to 80,000 jobs just in the energy corridor. And then just north of mine, that's now in Dan Crenshaw's district, ExxonMobil's headquarters is there. And then also there's also a hub kind of in downtown Houston, where there are also a few energy companies there like Chevron and Enterprise Products and a few of those. But what's interesting is that if you work downtown, you still live in my district.
You still live in your
So
district.
either if you're related to energy, either you live in my district or you work in the
You
energy.
really are the end. And what are you hearing? Are they just frustrated by what's happened under this administration because Biden's really declared war on energy and
because he wants Americans and U.S. citizens dependent on foreign oil to keep these foreigners here in our land. And it's time for them to go. We can control our own gas stations. We can manage our own funding. We can manage our own Section 8 motherfucking vouchers. Well, some of us. I ain't gonna speak for everybody.
If we start with good, positive America First policies.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So,
simple.
Right now, you can't demonize us today because literally this microphone that I'm speaking into right now, my cell phone in my pocket, everything that we use is basically a product of fossil fuels. If we were able to magically snap our fingers tomorrow and if every single American drove an EV tomorrow, we would only reduce our demand by 20%. We would still use 80% of a barrel of oil on everything else that we need. Yes! And if you're driving a Tesla right now and you plug it in at night, it's being powered by a coal-powered grid or by natural gas.
That is so
your Tesla is
crazy.
gas-powered, by the way.
So we need it.
We
and
need
our
it.
grid's not ready for all
the world's not ready.
I just think Texas is ground zero of everything that the Biden administration's done wrong. You're on the front lines of watching an overrun border, drugs coming across our border, and then an abandonment of the energy. And we're all feeling it.
Yes.
Like you said, don't raise taxes. Well, everybody has a tax hike right now with inflation.
Yes, we do.
So what are you hearing from people in your district? What are some of the main concerns you're hearing as you're running?
Biggest thing is, look, we're looking at what's happening with inflation and with higher taxes. We don't have a tax revenue problem in our country. We have a spending problem in our country.
Yes, we do.
Just 3 years ago, we had the highest tax revenue in the history of this country and added $1.5 trillion to our debt. Spending problem. Big government. How do we get the government out of the lives of everyday Americans and make it as small as possible to allow Americans to have the autonomy to make up their own minds and make their own decisions and operate in the best interest of their families and their own liberty and their own personal interest? It's just that simple.
You sound like a Republican.
It's shocking. Like an American. It's like common sense.
Common sense.
It's not that hard.
You know, I think you're going to be elected. I think you're going to be such an influence in the House. I've been watching your career since I've been in Washington. Is there something that you're really passionate about as a legislative priority when you come to Washington that just you want to get done once you get elected?
I want to get the Keystone XL pipeline done.
Yeah,
good.
good.
Let's get that turned back on.
Right.
Let's get the restrictions. Let's.
Washington Nation Ambassador, I approve this message.
The United States of America and fuel the entire world. That's my top priority.
And we can do it in a clean way.
It's cleaner than anybody else.
That makes us not just more prosperous as a nation, but also safer because we're not putting money in the hands of Russia and Venezuela.
And send all these motherfucking Arabs back where the fuck they from. Meddling in our fucking elections. I ain't gonna say ours. Meddling in U.S. elections.
We have a lot of people out there running for office right now. Not just Congress, but school board and county commissioner. Yeah, we're taking our country back. So you ran for Congress before. You ran such a great race. It was tight. It was a tough race. What are your pro tips for running for office to anybody who's listening? What would you say? Think about these things as you're preparing for your run.
Stay in the community. Know your community. Talk to every single person that you can. And make sure that you always leave a lasting impression about how you want to change things.
Right! I tell people this all the time!
Attitude as possible. And please know that there are people that are currently serving our country today and people that have died for our freedoms. Don't forget that. It's an honor to be able to serve.
It truly is. America truly is. And I think all the people who did the things that they did to get millennials all of this freedom that we have, that these fucking swamp monsters are trying to take from us.
In the halls of Congress, to be one of 435 Americans is an honor. Don't ever forget that.
That's amazing. Perfect. We should put that as like our training. I don't know if you ever are in a bad mood. Are you ever in a bad mood?
It's really hard.
Are you always really just happy?
It's really hard to get me in a bad mood.
I'm going to say you're going to win the one-up war because, you know, your brother may have gone to Harvard and your sister may have taught at Westport, but you're going to be a congressman. Not going to win.
As of right now, but who knows what my brother and sister are going to do after this.
We're going up. How do people support you in your race? What would be a way to go and help Leslie Hunt?
WesleyForTexas.com. That's my website, and that's where please, if you have any capacity to be ever greatly appreciate it. Obviously, this stuff costs money. And then also, if you want to follow me on all my social media,
you're so great. This is going to be a great freshman class. I do want to end with a question that I ask pretty much everybody on the show. We have a lot of Republicans that are discouraged right now. They are upset about what happened in 2020. Some of them are saying,
understandably so.
yeah, why should I get involved?
Yeah.
They're upset. They're upset with what happened. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to engage. I'm done. What do you say to that person who's sitting on the sidelines of this election? How do you get them off the sidelines to engage in what I think is going to be the most pivotal election in our nation's history?
So I'm ready for you to the United States Congress in Harris County. Harris County is the third largest county in the entire country. There are roughly 5 congressional districts entirely encompassed in Harris County. 4 of the 5 districts are minority majority districts, and they are districts that Joe Biden would have won by at least 25 points. There's only one white majority district. 70% of my district is always white, and it's a district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. And a black man's going to be a congressman in the only white majority Trump plus 25 seat left in the third largest county in the entire country. I tell you that. That's the America that I know and love. It's not about race. It's not about color. I literally wake up every day and live Martin Luther King's dream. I'm literally being judged by the
Fuck Martin Luther King's dream.
My skin. That's
Fucking sellout.
And if you want the world to know that, you have to get off the sidelines.
We're done with Martin Luther King's era. It's time for the Moorish American era again.
I love that because you're pushing back on this Democrat.
I had things happen to me, and none of them fucking civil rights organizations did a damn thing about it.
Everybody's racist.
Everybody, no matter what.
I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to call you
All your
racist.
political organizations and all the secrecy and all the backstabbing and all the corruption gotta end.
But I just want to end by just saying thank you so much for serving.
Thank you so much, Mr.
In your
Wesley.
community, with what you did with these teenagers and young kids, what you've done to serve our country in the military, and now this next step in your life. I know you have a wife and 2 young daughters. You said, what, an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old?
18-month-old and a 3-year-old. Yes, we're busy.
You're very busy. I said I have a 17-year-old.